Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. In this video, we'll be discussing the events that shaped the FreshSMP Hub in its youth, paving the way to greatness later found in the FreshSMP Hub Renaissance. We'll be discussing events long past, in a land before time. Hello guys, and welcome back to episode 2 of the FreshSMP Hub documentary series. Let's dive right into it, because in this video, we're going to cover a lot more information than the last video. Before we start, let's have a small recap. In the last video, we talked about the origins of FreshLore and his history before FreshSMP. We also discussed the reasons behind the formation of the FreshSMP Hub and the events of its first few months. If you're wondering why my voice is so deep right now, it's because I have a sore throat. Sorry, but I gotta record, you know? So anyways, other than that, we didn't talk about much. So now, let us begin. Episode 2. Let's start this off with some background information. It's February 7th, 2023, and right now, the hub is a very desolate place. There are only about 5 to 10 players online, practically no culture, and there isn't a community. Plugin wise, this hub's still using just one lobby, Dragon's Breath is still active, and the player inventory only has a book, a compass, and a sword. However, on February 7th, that would all change. A new plugin is added that will begin the long list of plugin changes known as the evolutionary era. But wait, let's talk about the date February 7th. This is the date that this episode begins. But this is not without a reason. Other than the plugin change that I've already mentioned, something special happens on this date. The FreshSMP Hub turns 3 months old. What does this mean? Well, allow me to explain to you the player ranking system. There are 3 classifications for lobby players. The first is Hub Regular. A Hub Regular is simply someone who plays on the lobby a lot. The second classification is Original Gamer, or OG. And finally, Veteran Players. If a veteran started playing in the first 3 months of the lobby, they're still considered an OG player. Some examples of OG players are Freecraft, Kubo, and 6K. So now that that's out of the way, let's talk about the plugin change on February 7th, 2023. This plugin change added 2 extra lobbies to the hub. That's right, you heard me, 2 extra lobbies, adding up to a total of 3 lobbies. Yeah, believe it or not, there were actually 3 different lobbies at one time. This crazy plugin is only one of many more to come. Not much happens in the early phases of the plugin evolution, but on February 15th, 2023, something absolutely crazy happened. PlayJohn joined FreshSMP. Yes, I did just refer to myself in the third person. PlayJohn had been scrolling on MinecraftServers.org, trying to find a server that fits him, when eventually he stumbled across FreshSMP. When PlayJohn first joined the server, he was fascinated by the simple PvP accessibility. All you had to do was simply hold the sword for 5 seconds to turn it on, and let it go for 5 seconds to turn it off. He was also interested by Dragon's Breath, which I had mentioned he liked in the last video. Anyways, enough about PlayJohn, let's move on. 2 days after PlayJohn joined FreshSMP, the second plugin change occurred. This was the first inventory change. It changed the inventory from book, compass, and sword to book, compass, clock, and sword, due to the fact that there was now 3 lobbies on the hub. Around this time, the FreshSMP hub had its first major wave of new players, which we'll talk about later. As March 2023 began, a small sub-era known as the Age of Servers also began. During this era that lasted about a month, many FreshSMP lobby players began founding many private servers. This act of many players coming together is what you could call a community. A notable player during this was SpaceEddie, who is remembered for starting the Age of Servers. So, as things continued as they were in the Age of Servers, something game-changing happened in the plugin evolution. That's because on March 7th, 2023, a server-wide update occurred, and in the process, removed both the third lobby and Dragon's Breath.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
2 Titans gone in the same day. This plugin change would be followed up 8 days later, when on March 15th, 2023, another inventory change occurred. This time, the inventory went from book, compass, clock, and sword to clock, bell, candles, and sword. Now, I know what you're thinking.
Candles on the lobby? That's crazy!
Yes, it is. And candles were used as the first type of player visibility disability. This inventory did not last long. Only 2 days later, on March 17th, 2023, the inventory once again changed for the third and final time. Changing it from compass, clock, bell, candles, and sword to the inventory we all know. In between the second and the third inventory change, there was a major cultural innovation: the first lobby war. These were called the Vine Wars. They were fought over the vines under the map. They were much more popular back then, because back then there was natural light under the map, which sadly we don't have anymore, and we haven't had since this time period. As evolution continued and culture grew on the lobby, so did the player base. And on March 27th, 2023, another major cultural innovation occurred, one just as significant as the first lobby war. This was the first parkour journey. For anyone confused, a parkour journey is a parkour journey. And the first parkour journey was the Journey to the Roof, led by the legendary Not Cool Man 21. Not Cool Man's Journey to the Roof would play a major role in the FreshSMP hub culture today. And little fun fact, of the day of me releasing this video, me and the rest of the FreshSMP hub community will try all of our efforts to complete a parkour journey that we've been trying to complete for almost a year. The journey to the Great Peak. We'll talk about it in a later video. Anyways, by this point in time, the evolutionary era has reached its end, and now we have reached a new era, the settlementation period. In this era, the rate of plugin changes decreases, and the rate of new players decrease. But something very important happens. The first hub community begins to form. Hey, the video ain't over yet. As March was on its way out, so tagged along the Age of Servers. On April 8th, 2023, the FreshSMP hub had its second map change. This was the Easter mini hub. It was called a mini hub because unlike the other maps that would have huge varieties to differentiate it from the default hub, this map only had an egg at the spawn. The map would change back to the default hub 1 month later, on May 8th, 2023. Not much happened in the month of April, so now I'm going to take the opportunity to talk about some of the players that joined since this episode began. Some players that joined around this time include Okarzi, Albert 1047, Chris Gamers 6, Clown Plin, Croaky Ranger 452, Fanban or Space Eddie, Ice Kitty, Mental Deaths, Not Coleman 21, Stormer XD 5655, Vex Streaming, Will Kaz, Cyan Gamer, and many more unnamed players. Going to May 8th, when the Easter mini hub was disabled, the southwest torch tower was missing on the default hub, and it would remain missing until the next map change. May 16th, 2023. The second exploit in FreshSMP hub history was discovered, the PvP glitch. This glitch allows players to move their sword into another slot in their hotbar without turning off PvP in the process. And now, on May 17th, 2023, there was an event when there was a hole in the stairs. How funny. Take a step back and look around. Since this episode began, the FreshSMP hub has completely evolved. There's now a community. There are now multiple exploits. And now, I'm afraid, that wraps up this video. Episode 2 has been completed. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching the video. I spent a long time making this, so if you considered subscribing, that will help me out a lot motivationally for the next video. What? No. Of course I'm not reusing audio from the last video. And speaking of the next video, in the next video, we're gonna talk about the FreshSMP Hub Renaissance, the golden age of the FreshSMP Hub. The next episode releases February 15th, so stay tuned until then.